This page is the rather striking cover of DC UK Magazine, issue 12 from August 2000, proclaiming itself the new look issue. Featured prominently is a preview of Ready to Rumble Boxing 2, looking rather intense and shouting, "Seconds out, round 2 Bosch." There's also the first in-depth guide for Ferrari 355 Challenge, which apparently involves taking the Italian stallion for a gallop. Virtua Tennis gets a glowing mention, called an ace, and potentially the best tennis game on the system. Reviews inside include NHL 2K, Time Stalkers, Bust a Move 4, and Super Runabout. This issue also packs a guide for Tony Hawk skateboarding, and full reviews for Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and Samba de Amigo, described as Maracatastic. They're also spilling the beans on upcoming titles like Headhunters, Silent Scope, WWF Royal Rumble, and Virtua Athlete. And if that wasn't enough, there are 15 pages of games tips inside. This page plunges us into the DC UK intro, starting with a rather atmospheric setup featuring a sofa, a flickering TV displaying disturbingly real Resident Evil Code Veronica, and a pair of eyes peering over the cushions. Clearly someone has been engrossed. The main welcome text from editor Keith Stewart laments that despite the summer, the team has been glued to their Dreamcasts, thanks to a hefty delivery from Sega. He talks about escaping reality by playing Virtua Tennis and pretending the Metropolis Street Racer demo is a London trip. He even recounts the online chows caused by Choo Choo Rocket and the teething problems of the UK's first console online game. The big news, apparently, is Ready to Rumble Boxing 2, with a trip to the developers that just missed Michael Jackson. Featured highlights on the cover include Ready to Rumble Boxing 2, hyped as the top boxing series since Punch-Out!, boasting Michael Jackson as a playable character. F355 Challenge is lauded as a realistic racer crafted by Yu Suzuki, best enjoyed with Van Halen on. Virtua Tennis is called the finest video game rendition of the sport, featuring Kornikova. Marvel vs. Capcom 2 showcases its massive 56-character roster and bizarre costumes, promising frantic super move battles. Finally, a guide to Tony Hawk skateboarding is highlighted as the most bitching available. The bottom confirms Resident Evil Code Veronica received a stellar 9/10 review, called Awesome and Unrivaled. This page is your navigational chart for the month, the full table of contents. We've got the crew who put it all together listed, from editor Keith Stewart down to the folks handling production and advertising. Then comes the main event, broken down into handy sections. Features include the big cover story on Ready to Rumble 2, our exclusive look at the boxing sequel, plus the dive into the online madness of My Choo Choo Diary, and a peek at Metropolis Street Racer's innovative gameplay. DC Review delivers the verdicts, notably on Marvel vs. Capcom 2 with its frankly insane roster, NHL 2K for the puck fans, Gauntlet Legends, Deep Fighter, and South Park Rally. DC Express rounds up the news and hype, featuring Alien Front Online and Silent Scope. D-Tips carries on the Code Veronica walkthrough and gives us the lowdown on Tony Hawk's skateboarding tricks. All the usual interactive sections and regulars are there too. Looks like plenty to get stuck into this month. This page kicks off the big DC UK feature on Ready to Rumble Boxing 2. You can't miss the massive logo dominating the right side, promising more cartoonish pugilism. On the left, there's a striking poster advertising a fictional bout, Angel vs. Afro, Fight of the Thrillenium, complete with a date, July 6, 2000, and some seriously stacked plus names including Shaq, Michael Jackson and Wild Stubby Cook. Apparently tickets were £45.99 for an advanced booking, a bargain for that lineup. The article itself dives into the sequel, revealing that Afro Thunder is actually voiced by the game's musical director, Orpheus Hanley, who even dressed up as the character at E3. The piece also mentions the relatively small team on the original game, and how the sequel's idea stemmed from seeing an animated short called The Boxer. A smaller image shows Lulu Valentine, another character from the game. Looks like the sequel is bringing the colourful chows back to the ring. The next page continues the Ready to Rumble Boxing 2 feature, highlighting gameplay mechanics and introducing the new roster. Several screenshots show the action in the ring, including a fight between Angel and Afro Thunder, and other bouts featuring characters like Joey T and Ushette and Asar. The article details improvements like a 3-tier rumble system, a new countering mechanic, and enhanced collision detection. The big draw here is the Meet the New Guys section, which confirms Michael Jackson and Shaquille O'Neal are stepping into the ring. Alongside these heavy hitters, new fighters like Joey T, Mama Tua, GC Thunder, and Wild Stubby Cook are introduced. each with their own backstories. Apparently, Michael Jackson was such a fan he approached Midway himself, and the developers even got to visit Neverland. The quote about Midway being after Mariah Carey, until Michael Jackson stuck his nose in, is a bit of a laugh. Makes you wonder who'd win that celebrity rumble. The team also looked at real boxing and arcade classics for inspiration, aiming for realistic movement but keeping the signature over-the-top style. Looks like the sequel is stacking the deck with personality and star power. This page kicks off with a DC feature on NBA hoops, hailing it as the fastest, funniest basketball video game back with a single-player mode. It seems the previous game, NBA Showtime, was a 4-player favorite but lacked a solo campaign, a glaring oversight they're fixing here. The article talks about creating your own players, a full season mode, and making the gameplay more tactical while keeping that fast arcade feel. They mention new special moves, hidden characters like the Teletubbies and Cylons, seriously, and new commentary. The screenshots show some classic hoops action. Over on the right, under the rather ominous title, Good Night Sweet Dreams, is a feature on Silver. It's described as an explosive mix of arcade action and role-playing adventure, where you forget about sleeping. Features mentioned include 27 quests, huge worlds and hundreds of locations, controlling up to 5 characters, a real-time combat system, and 75 enemy types. The 4 screenshots show different environments from the game world. Looks like a decent fantasy epic is inbound. This page kicks off with the index, giving us a peek at other previews in this issue, like Ferrari 355, Virtua Tennis, F1 Grand Prix, Walt Disney World Quest, Make an X, and 4x4 Evolution. Plenty to look forward to, seemingly. The main focus is Metropolis Street Racer from Bizarre Creations, and it sounds rather interesting. It's described as an arcade racer using real cars, streets, and physics, but the crucial bit is the kudos system. Forget just being the fastest, you need to drive with serious style, power slides, perfect overtakes, pulling off exciting moves. That's how you earn kudos and progress. The game is structured into 25 chapters, with various challenges, from hot laps and head-to-head races, to cone slaloms, and even follow the leader. There's also talk of a robust 28-player multiplayer, with split screen and car customization. It seems MSR is all about skill and showmanship, not just crossing the finish line first. This page continues the DC preview of Metropolis Street Racer. The review highlights the detailed, realistic city maps filled with recognizable shops, and notes that the in-game time syncs with your Dreamcast's internal clock. It emphasizes that the game isn't just about racing the fastest, but also about earning kudos by driving with style, avoiding penalties for hitting rails, and getting points for cool moves. The handling and physics are praised, described as having a Gran Turismo feel, where cars don't just spin out like jellied eels but allow for controlled power slides. The licensed vehicles are noted as being brilliantly modeled. There's a quote suggesting the game feels like power sliding around like a max power reader in an Essex car park, which sounds like a blast. The preview mentions Bizarre Creations is still tweaking the handling, and that the E3 demo impressed them. It's compared favourably to UK-developed racing games, and put in the same league as Ridge Racer, Sega Rally, and Gran Turismo, with a release expected in September. The rest of the page is dominated by adverts. There's a large one for Action Replay, CDX, a cheat cartridge for Dreamcast promising stacks of cheats and enhancements, available for £29.99. Below that there's a competition to win Dreamcast games and accessories, worth over £500. The next page features a DC preview for Ferrari 355 Challenge. This is Sega's attempt at a proper realistic driving simulation, headed up by Yu Suzuki no less. Unlike your usual arcade fare, or even the kudos-earning MSR from the last page, the main message here is, beware. This is not a driving game like you've ever played before. It's a proper sim that demands precision, and punishes mistakes like braking too late, or hitting the gas too early, leading to classic issues like understeer. The preview details 6 real-world inspired tracks, including Monza and Suzuka, explaining that each requires careful preparation rather than just winging it. It highlights the impressive coin-op visuals making the jump, promising detailed cars and environments. Due out in September, it sounds like it's going to separate the serious drivers from those still trying to drift everywhere. The next page gives us a deeper dive into Ferrari 355 Challenge, doubling down on the fact that this is a serious simulation from Yu Suzuki, not some casual bumper car fiesta. The Spoilt for Choice panel teases a whole host of potential game modes beyond the basic arcade, and versus options shown in the demo, hinting at championships, online racing, and even car setup adjustments if they make the final cut. Proper simulation depth that sounds rather tasty. Screenshots show off the lovely Ferrari F355s, various tracks including Monza, and the informative UI, confirming this is all about precision driving. While it's definitely aimed at the hardcore driver, the article notes that driver assists and a training mode are included to ease less experienced players into the punishing world of F355. It also touches on the game's roots in the arcade, referencing the ridiculously expensive 3-screen cabinets. Ultimately, this looks like a challenging mountain to climb, but a rewarding one for dedicated patrol heads. This page serves up a preview of Virtua Tennis, hyped as the best tennis game ever. Combining arcade fun with simulation realism like accurate ball physics and animation, it promises an ace of a time. Controls are simple, with just 2 buttons for shots, making it easy to pick up but offering plenty of depth to master different strokes. The multiplayer, especially 4-player doubles, sounds absolutely brilliant, though you'll need to coordinate to avoid chasing the same ball like headless chickens. You get 8 licensed pros, including our own Tim Henman, and familiar courts, even a fancy purple one you can buy. Sadly, as the quote points out, there's no option to play as a naked Anna Kournikova, which is a shame, I suppose. This page delves deeper into Virtua Tennis, specifically the new World Circuit mode that apparently makes it better than the arcade version. It's a lengthy single-player experience packed with trials and training games to hone your skills. The training games sound like fun mini-games, testing things like hitting targets or returning shots from machines. Trial matches put you in match-play scenarios, sometimes focusing on specific shots, which is a neat idea. Success in these modes earns you cash to spend in the shop on extra courts, players, and gear. Because who doesn't need new strings for their virtual racket? The preview really seems to think this game is a winner, calling it potentially the best sports game of the lot, despite the frankly rubbish September release date. The screenshots show off the action, including frantic doubles and players stretching for those desperate saves. This page dives headfirst into the world of F1 World Grand Prix 2, the sequel aiming to improve upon last year's well-regarded simulation. The big news is a souped UP engine delivering a more realistic simulation and aiming for a smoother 60 frames per second, which should banish the slowdown that plagued the original. The circuits are apparently spot-on replicas of their real-life counterparts, complete with accurate details and sponsorship. No fags allowed, naturally. And the 99 season cars are recreated in detail. The AI has been bumped up too, with drivers being more intelligent and aggressive, willing to block and even crash. It sounds like they're not taking any prisoners. The game offers both a more relaxed arcade mode and a hardcore simulation mode for the brave souls among us. There's even a broadcast mode with TV-style camera angles, perfect for reliving your virtual Grand Prix glory. Screenshots litter the page, showcasing the cars and tracks from various angles, including views from Interlagos, Montreal, and Monaco. The preview is certainly optimistic, highlighting the improved physics and smoother performance. This page takes a look at Walt Disney World Quest Magical Racing Tour, another contender in the crowded kart racing genre, clearly taking cues from the likes of Mario Kart. You'll be tearing around tracks based on famous Disney World locations like the Magic Kingdom and Tomorrowland, collecting power-ups like Speed Up and Acorns for invincibility. The game offers an adventure mode, multiplayer action, and time trials. The preview highlights the unique track designs tied to the theme park locations, which is a neat twist. However, the reviewer seems a bit puzzled by the character roster, questioning the absence of big names like Mickey and Donald, in favor of some less familiar faces like Polly Roger and Baron von Carlot, though Chip and Dale are confirmed to be in. While the AI can be cunning, even from the fluffy chipmunk drivers, the preview notes that the visuals in this early build were a bit basic with some glitches, and the 4-player mode suffers from a rather poor frame rate. Still, it's expected to be a hit with kids and Disney fans when it arrives in August. This page previews Make an X, a first-person hack-and-slash game that swaps guns for blades, offering a rather different take on the genre. The premise involves a secret lab, an artificial brain sword called Maken, a kidnapping, and a daughter seeking her father, wrapped up in an anime-style narrative with plenty of cutscenes. The core gameplay is fast-paced combat against bizarre enemies, including masked women in catsuits and roundhouse-kicking guards. A neat feature is brain-jacking, allowing you to switch between characters with different abilities. The game features a rank system and power-ups, and while the combat sounds straightforward, the difficulty curve is noted as steep. The preview suggests success relies on strategy and planning, rather than just flailing about. Make an X looks set to be a challenging and stylish offering for fans of first-person action looking for something a bit out of the ordinary. This page gives us a preview of 4x4 Evolution, a game focused on off-road racing with 4 wheels good, 16 wheels even better. It features over 70 licensed four-wheel drive vehicles, like BMWs and Cherokees, across 16 varied environments including deserts and the Arctic. The game offers a free-form approach to races with checkpoints, allowing players to choose their own route across the terrain. There's a focus on customization, similar to Gran Turismo, where players can upgrade their vehicles with winnings. Interestingly, there's an online component planned where players can buy and sell cars. While the environments and effects look impressive in the screenshots, showing rough terrain, jumps, and diverse backdrops, the preview notes that the handling wasn't entirely convincing when they saw it, suggesting terminal reality might need to fine-tune it before release. The game promises dynamic landscapes and a focus on getting filthy off the beaten track. August 2000 DC UK, pages 30 and 31 are featured here. This page dives into a preview of WWF Royal Rumble, THQ's first venture onto the Dreamcast and seemingly a significant step up from previous WWF efforts on the platform. The article highlights the game's focus on grappling action and its impressive ability to handle multiple wrestlers in the ring simultaneously, a whopping 9 characters, allowing for 4 human players plus AI partners. Screenshots showcase the action with familiar faces like Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, Triple H, and Rikishi in the squared circle. The visuals are praised for smooth models and detailed character likenesses. The commentary captions add a bit of light-hearted banter to the intense wrestling scenes. The preview notes that despite the potential chows of so many bodies, the controls are easy to grasp. It looks like Dreamcast might finally get a decent wrestling game with plenty of frantic, chow-tetic fun. This page jumps into a preview of MTV Skateboarding, starring Norody MacDonald, presented as a potential rival to the reigning champion, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. The game sees you rising through the ranks, earning cash and rankings through tricks, combos and sponsored events across 40 arenas, all set to an MTV soundtrack featuring bands like Cypress Hill. Screenshots show off the skating action with various tricks like grinds and flips, accompanied by captions highlighting the sparks, dynamic camera angles, and typical skatepark levels, with one cheekily asking about knee pads. While it promises a lot of modes and content, including a rather intriguing-sounding fragboarding mode, the preview notes that the controls initially feel quite heavy compared to its competitors. There is also an advertisement for Planet DC Cheats, showcasing volumes of cheatbooks/discs for Dreamcast games available at £4.99 each, powered by the Action Replay CDX device. This page jumps into the latest news from the world of Dreamcast. We've got snippets previewing upcoming titles like the arcade shooter Silent Scope, a football game, crikey, 2001 already, the biking action of Headhunters, and even a look at gaming on your mobile phone, plus a nod to cheating devices with the Action Replay CDX. The main feature blasts off with Alien Front, Sega's futuristic tank battle game coming to DC. Originating in the arcades with 4v4 human versus alien battles, it pits players in tanks or alien walkers against each other, in destructible urban environments like Washington, D.C. and Tokyo. Expect full-on tank warfare of the most addictive kind, with unique weapons like the gravity ball and support for headset comms. We also hear that Baldur's Gate might still be making an appearance on Dreamcast, which would be jolly nice. On the right there's a chart listing upcoming games and their hype levels. Plenty to get excited about between now and Christmas. Finally, some cracking news about Dreamcast sales hitting the stratosphere, thanks to the price drop to a bargain £135. Hardware sales apparently rocketed by 400%, boosted nicely by the release of Resident Evil Code Veronica. Seems the lower price point and a big release were just the ticket, eh? Nice one, Sega. This page dives into more Dreamcast goodness, starting with news bits like a new US browser that supports Java, details on Railroad Tycoon 2 having one-on-one online play, and Sega cracking down on mod chips making import games tougher to play. We get a look at Sydney 2000, Konami's take on the Olympics with various track and field events heading our way. E10 Play. The main features kick off with a cracking preview of Silent Scope, the arcade light gun shooter conversion that looks arcade perfect, arriving in September to let you snipe terrorists with satisfying headshots. Then there's Heavy Metal, based on the animated film, promising a plot-driven adventure using the Quake 2 iArena engine with vast landscapes. The charts show Resident Evil Code Veronica proudly sitting at number 1, and the ever-brilliant Crazy Taxi holding strong. Finally, a peek at Tropico, a strategy sim in the vein of SimCity and Railroad Tycoon that lets you build and manage your very own tropical island paradise, or become a ruthless tyrant. Looks like a very good year for strategy fans. This page is packed with updates, starting with some interesting rumors doing the rounds, like Sega potentially licensing their Dreamcast tech, and Midway being eyed up by Microsoft. There's also confirmation that the excellent Neo Geo Pocket Color is being withdrawn from sale and, more excitingly, that Sega is planning a mouse/keyboard package which would be perfect for games like Quake 2i, Half-Life, and Railroad Tycoon 2. The big feature is the Datal Action Replay CDX for Dreamcast. Yes, you can finally cheat your way through those tricky bits. It's a cartridge and CD combo that loads cheat codes for games like Resident Evil, Code Veronica and Sega Worldwide Soccer 2000. The review calls it a bargain package which fully deserves picking up, especially as it also handles imports. Datal isn't stopping there, announcing new memory cards with larger capacities, and a keyboard called the Surfboard, pitched for internet use, and upcoming games like Billabong Pro Surfer. Finally, the regular Dave 2000 column weighs in on how Sega is pivoting the Dreamcast as an interactive device, and making a tidy sum from gamers' internet calls, particularly with online titles like Choo Choo Rocket. It's argued this revenue helps support the platform and online gaming for the future, and if you fancy a bit of cheating yourself, there's a competition to win an action replay. This page kicks off with light news, celebrating the E3 2000 award winners. Black and White scooped the coveted Best of Show award, while other top titles like Jet Set Radio, Ultimate Fighting Championship, and Samba de Amigo also picked up gongs. Next up is Sega's broadcast news from Japan, detailing plans for a high-speed internet connection using a LAN adapter and existing cable networks. This aims to bring online games, video conferencing via the Dream's Eye, and other digital delights, though sadly, it seems European Dreamcast owners will still be stuck with the slower modem connection. On the game front, there's a look at Seaman, everyone's favorite fishy friend, heading to the US with none other than Leonard Nimoy narrating the voice recognition antics. We also get a first peek at Headhunters, a mysterious 3D action/adventure game announced at E3, promising motorbike sequences and leaving hardened journos guessing about the gameplay based on early screenshots. Finally, mobile gaming is on the rise with Sega and Motorola teaming up to bring games to whoppanabled phones. Titles like Golf and Columns are mentioned, but the highlight seems to be Sonic J, a neat miniature take on Sonic's classic 2D adventures, along with Sonic's Bomb Squad. And for football fans, UEFA 2001 is on the horizon, promising real team names, strips and stadiums, fixing a major gripe from the previous installment and adding features like player injuries and crowd reactions. Looks like Infogrames is aiming for a proper simulation this time around. This page brings us more international news, kicking off with SWAT 3 heading to Dreamcast. Apparently this Last Style Police action game, previously PC only, is making the jump, promising tactical anti-terrorism missions with realistic weapons and physics, though the camouflage might not work too well on red carpet, eh? Next up, the hit PC strategy shoot-'em-up system Shock 2 is coming our way, combining first-person action and RPG elements with hacking and detailed systems. Looks like a complex beast, though one screenshot has the team wondering if they've found a space toilet. Further tactical combat arrives with M.UT 2025, described as a light infantry strategy game set in urban environments plagued by terrorists. It aims for strategy and tactics with cool weapons and revolutionary AI. For something completely different, Extreme Sports tries to capture the Pepsi Max generation with hang gliding, deemed daft, snowboarding, cowabunga, and quad biking. The Norwegian developer Innerloop is tackling radical sports, hoping to produce decent games from what seems like a mixed bag of activities. Finally, we get a quick look at Spec Ops: Omega Squad, a tactical squad simulator sending us Army Green Berets on 30 missions from Thailand to Antarctica, promising a mix of single-player and multiplayer action. And surprisingly, Quake DC is a reality, with Titanium Studios managing to port the PC version in just 9 days. Impressive stuff. This page continues the international news, this time focusing on athletics, flight simulation, and hedgehogs. First up is Virtua Athlete 2K, Sega's take on the track and field genre, following their arcade success. It features classic events like the hurdles, shot put, and long jump. And rather amusingly, the reviewer muses about the lack of performance-enhancing drugs in the character creation, which would surely give players an edge, eh? Next, Imperial Fighter of Zero takes us to the skies with a World War II sim, albeit with fictional nations. The physics are reportedly spot on, offering a detailed cockpit view for spotting those bogeys. Big news for Sonic fans. Sonic Adventure 2 is confirmed with Sonic, Knuckles, and Dr. Eggman returning, plus a mysterious Dark Sonic. The trailer shown at E3 apparently didn't reveal much, but we now know the game is being developed by Sonic Team USA and is due early next year. It sounds like there will be plenty of running and perhaps even a truck chase scene. Elsewhere, there's chat about online gaming kicking off in Japan with games like ChuChu Rocket and Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and a peculiar limited edition Dreamcast with a built-in TV. Oh, and a rumor about the classic RPG Shining Force potentially gracing the console. This page delves into Capcom's future plans unveiled at their annual business conference. Expect a plethora of fighting games making a return. A sequel to the arcade classic Rival Schools, United by Fate, is confirmed, promising more combat with lithe schoolgirls in sailor uniforms, as the article rather gleefully points out. Screenshots show off the cartoon style, with one caption hilariously noting a character reacting to a comment about gym pants. Fear not, vampire fans, as Vampire 4, known as Darkstalkers, is also on the way to Dreamcast. Plus, prepare for the legendary Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo to hit the console too, though the screenshot shown is actually Street Fighter Alpha 3, where Ryu seems to be mocking FEI Long's attire. Adding something a bit different to the mix is Net Tennis, which sounds exactly like it says on the tin, and is confirmed to feature online play, which is a welcome sign for future Capcom DC titles. Apparently most new Capcom DC games will have online support. However, the news about developing games simultaneously for Dreamcast and PlayStation 2, potentially meaning they won't fully utilize the Dreamcast's strengths, is called a wee bit daft by the reviewer. All in all, a mixed bag of news from Capcom, but plenty of fighting game goodness on the horizon. There's also a brief mention of Redline magazine on sale. This page is a delightful dive into the launch of ChuChu Rocket Online, presented as a diary by John Rocket 56 Jordan. It's laid out like a corkboard, pinned with notes, screenshots, and even some rather questionable homemade character cutouts. The diary entries detail the first couple of days, from the anticipation of launch on day 0 to the online chows of day 1. Our man John jumps online, finds only a handful of players, and immediately gets stuck into games across different servers in the UK, Germany and France. He notes the significant lag in the online version compared to offline, calling it frustrating, but still manages to rack up wins. Screenshots show the frantic gameplay, with mice and cats scurrying across the grid, along with player names and scores, including Rocket 56 himself. There's also a funny photo of someone looking less than thrilled wearing one of the homemade ChuChu costumes, captioned with a sarcastic quip. It's a candid look at the early days of online gaming on Dreamcast, complete with server hopping and the inevitable struggles with lag, but ultimately showcasing the addictive fun of ChuChu Rocket. This page continues the online diary of John Rocket 56 Jordan's ChuChu Rocket adventures, charting the descent into online madness. Day 2 is a saga of logging on, getting disconnected, dealing with useless phone support, and finally getting online after server maintenance. He plays across different servers, feeling like a prophet after some wins, but then hits a wall, losing badly and starting to drink. By day 3, it's a full-blown hangover and continued connection woes. He battles lag and frustration, particularly when stats don't seem to update correctly. Despite the struggles, he manages a few wins before the general despair kicks in, leading to more drinking and a rather specific tally of brain cells destroyed. Day 4 is the inevitable come-down, boredom setting in after the intense few days. The final stats show a decent number of wins, but perhaps not the glorious percentage achieved in his alcohol-fueled haze. Pinned up alongside the entries are more photos of people in homemade ChuChu masks, looking either bewildered, Casper, is that you? Or completely defeated. What have I done you? It's a raw and hilarious look at the highs and lows of early online gaming commitment. This page kicks off the review section, aptly titled DC Review, proclaiming itself the only review section you can really trust. Dominating the right side is a vibrant image featuring Mega Man ready for action alongside other characters, hinting at the main review, the hotly anticipated Marvel vs. Capcom 2. The review index lists a bunch of games getting the once-over this month, from fighters like Deep Fighter to racers like Super Runabout and Classics collections, showing a good variety is on offer. There's a clear breakdown of What's the Score, detailing DCUC's commitment to honest, expert reviews using a straightforward 10-point scale, where 5 is, quite rightly, just bog-standard average. We meet the review panel. the esteemed gentlemen tasked with putting these games through their paces, sharing their personal current favorites like Samba de Amigo and Virtua Tennis. Apparently, getting a decent score here means something rather special, as they only recommend games they've truly played inside out. This page dives straight into the big review we were expecting, with a massive Marvel vs. Capcom 2 title dominating the center. There's a glowing quote suggesting the game's visuals stand up to the likes of Soul Calibur or Dead or Alive 2, which is high praise indeed, and it's slapped with a DC UK recommends badge. The page features a dynamic illustration of Strider Hiryu and several screenshots showcasing the Chow-Tatic, colorful action. The text delves into the game's premise, pitting the biggest heroes from Marvel and Capcom against each other in a scrap for the ages. There's a section specifically highlighting the super moves, noting their flamboyant nature, and how partners can join in for devastating combos. The review touches on the stunning, ultra-highs backgrounds and smooth animation, although it slightly cheekily points out that the backgrounds might even be too pretty, almost distracting from the sprites. But honestly, when you see these characters ripping across the screen, you'll likely forgive any minor quibbles. The game clearly delivers on the visual spectacle. A little details box confirms the publisher, price, release date and player count, but let's be honest, you're here for the punching. This page kicks off with a rather amusing segment called When Characters Attack, pitting unlikely video game icons against each other in hypothetical battles. We see matchups like Sonic vs. Rayman, Raziel vs. Shadowman, Kasumi vs. Ivy, and Ulala vs. Amigo, culminating in a semi-final with Sonic vs. Shadowman and Kasumi vs. Ula, leading to a final between Shadowman and Ula. The results are interesting, with Shadowman taking the crown. Scattered throughout are numerous screenshots from Marvel vs. Capcom 2, demonstrating the utterly chow-comedic and visually extravagant tag team fights. There are three-way brawls, massive special effects like waterfalls and giant bubbles, and the truly bizarre character combinations you can field, perfectly captured by captions like, "The character lineup is a bewildering at times. Who dis?" Prominent pull quotes declare the game eye candy of the most sweet and tooth-rotting kind, and boldly state, "This is the only versus fighting game you needed to own." The main review text highlights the accessible tag and assist mechanics, the spectacular hyper combos that unleash screen-filling chows, and the sheer, smile-inducing pandemonium that ensues when these wild rosters clash at breakneck speed. It's all about the visual flair, and the sheer, unadulterated fun of pitting your favorites against each other. This page is the main review spread for Marvel vs. Capcom 2, boldly asking, "My hero?" and highlighting 10 of the staggering 56 characters, focusing on newcomers such as the all-new Ruby Hart, Street Fighter's Sakura, the villainous Dr. Doom, and Resident Evil's Jill Valentine, among others like Cable, Anakaris, Rogue, Amingo, Marrow, and Tronbon. The page is bursting with colorful screenshots, showcasing the game's frantic tag team action and massive special moves. The review text praises the game's sheer enjoyment and describes the visuals as the most stunning ever graced DC. It touches on the gameplay modes, the reward system for unlocking content, and ultimately gives the game a DC UK verdict of 8 out of 10, comparing the overall experience to fine dining. This page is a massive advert for Gameplay.com, touting them as Britain's biggest mail-order supplier of computer games, offering a massive sale with Dreamcast games starting from just £19.99, and a catalogue featuring games and hardware for Dreamcast, PSX, N64, DVD, and PC. This page features a DC UK review of NHL 2K for the Dreamcast. The headline proudly declares it the best simulation yet seen, for fans wanting a convincing ice hockey experience. The review highlights the game's focus on realism over arcade action, contrasting it with previous 2D hockey titles. Screenshots show the detailed player models and impressive ice effects, suggesting a high level of graphical polish. The gameplay is described as tactical, rewarding teamwork and careful play rather than breakneck speed. Scoring seems to be a challenge thanks to tough goalies. Multiplayer allows up to 4 players, although playing on the same team can apparently descend into a bit of a chow-piratic mess, but simple 1-1 matches are spot on. The verdict praises the graphics and sound, notes the challenging gameplay, and rates it a 7 out of 10 overall, concluding it's perfect for fans but maybe not for newcomers. This page features a DC UK review for Gauntlet Legends. The headline quote suggests the graphics are charming, but lack early variation. The review talks about the arcade classic making the leap to console, mentioning the transition from 2D to 3D, and how it captures the fantastic slant of the original. Screenshots show the top-down action with characters battling monsters and what looks like a rather ominous pool of lava. The reviewer notes the straightforward 3-button gameplay and the selection of classic characters like the barbarian and sorceress. While the game retains the core concept of wading through hordes of enemies, the verdict is that it's a half-hearted attempt to recapture the original magic, scoring a 6 out of 10. The DC UK verdict panel gives low scores for graphics and multiplayer, and calls the gameplay tedious. This page features a DC UK review for Deep Fighter, a submarine adventure game. The headline quote sets the scene, suggesting a game with a vertical learning curve is problematic, which doesn't bode well, does it? The review casts you as a rookie subpilot exploring the ocean floor, starting with simple tasks like restocking fish farms. The controls are likened to GoldenEye, which sounds promising initially for steering your craft. However, things apparently go downhill when combat against the Shadowkin kicks in, becoming a big part of the game, but not adding much fun. Exploration is deemed more interesting than the distant torpedo battles. A big section focuses on the game's full-motion video, describing it as a classic example of how not to do FMV wooden acting and compressed video, typical of the era. Screenshots show the cockpit view, pesky mines, and rather bizarre vicious sea creatures. Ultimately, the game's convoluted story and sudden difficulty spike lead to a rather low score of 5 out of 10. The verdict panel blasts the graphics and calls the gameplay tedious, which is a bit of a bummer. This page gives us the DC UK review for South Park Rally, a kart racer featuring everyone's favorite foul-mouthed kids. The headline quote rather bluntly states it's a Mario Kart clone that doesn't measure up to the original, which sets the tone nicely, doesn't it? Duh. The review dives into the game's premise. South Park characters, racing karts, packed with locations and gags from the show. It follows the classic kart racer formula, with power-ups and shortcuts, but apparently, the magic isn't quite there compared to the undisputed champ Mario Kart. Screenshots show various tracks, split-screen multiplayer, and some rather strange power-up effects, like Saddam Hussein's face multiplying across the screen, as you do. While the multiplayer is highlighted as a strong point with up to 4 players, the review suggests races often descend into chows rather than exciting battles. There are bonus games mentioned too, including one about curing mad cow disease. The verdict panel sums it up as transferring the world of South Park well graphically, but the sound is repetitive, gameplay is standard fare, and multiplayer is a confusing mess. Ultimately, it scores a middling 5 out of 10, suggesting it's one primarily for the most avid South Park fans. This page delivers the DC UK review for Timestalkers, kicking off with the rather damning quote comparing its dialogue to Jackie Collins' novel and Yank Teen Buffy speak. Blimey. The review details the game's setup, following protagonist Sword through a world pieced together from different historical and geographical slices, a concept illustrated by screenshots showing varied environments like waterfalls, gardens, and even a floating church. However, the reviewer quickly dismisses the execution, lambasting the gameplay loop of boring dungeons filled with repetitive combat and dull creatures. Screenshots highlight moments from the game, including the hero sword, boss battles, and examples of the script, which is apparently really annoying. The verdict panel is equally brutal, rating the graphics as mediocre, the sound as staid, and the gameplay as utterly tedious. Ultimately, Timestalkers scores a miserable 4 out of 10, with the reviewer strongly advising readers to save their time and money for other upcoming RPGs instead. This page dives into the hack-and-slash world of Dragon's Blood, a game where you'll be wading through hordes of goblins, elves, and even giant pigmen. The reviewer kicks off by noting the environments are top-notch, holding their own against other fantasy titles, but the characters? Not quite as impressive, apparently. Gameplay-wise, it's a linear, third-person beat-em-up, drawing on plenty of fantasy tropes with enemies like walking skeletons and minotaurs. There's a bit of questing, but the main action revolves around sword fights. The combat, however, is described as chow-tactic and a bit of a letdown, mostly relying on a single attack button and a shield, with targeting being rather fiddly. Screens show off the combat and some flash magic tricks like shield spells and icy explosions, proving the game can look rather sharp at times, even if the gameplay doesn't quite live up to it. It sounds like there's a fair bit of hacking and not quite enough finesse. This page is dominated by the bold Arcade Magazine branding, proudly proclaiming a first look on PlayStation 2 for Metal Gear Solid 2. Screenshots show off the game's detailed environments and main protagonist, Solid Snake, looking rather moody as expected. Below the main header, there's a list of other exciting features like Resident Evil, Code Veronica, Colin McRae Rally 2.0, and Fur Fighters, plus a PlayStation exclusive first ever playtest for Driver 2, complete with a rather slick image of a car doing its thing. There's also a smaller cover image previewing the current issue, highlighting Metal Gear Solid 2 and other games featured. It looks like a proper packed issue, promising plenty of juicy previews and features for gamers to get their teeth into. On the left, there's a continuation of the Dragon's Blood review, noting obstacles, graphics quality, sound, and a final score of 6/10, calling it fun for a while but lacking depth. This page features a review of Taito's classic puzzle game, Bust-A-Move 4, making its debut on the Dreamcast. The reviewer points out its extreme simplicity, joking it makes Choo Choo Rocket seem complex by comparison, but stresses how addictive it remains despite its age. The core bubble-bursting action is back, joined by new features like the tactical pulley system and unique special attacks for the expanded cast of 11 characters, including returning favorites Bub and Bob. The review praises both the fiercely competitive two-player battles and the single-player modes, including a bizarre tarot-based story mode and a puzzle creator. Despite its simple graphics, the game is lauded for its frantic and instantly gratifying gameplay, earning an impressive 8/10 overall verdict for its great features and improved visuals. There's also a section offering tips under the title Bubbly Booty for new players. This page features a review of Midway Arcade Classics Volume 1, a collection bringing together golden oldies like Defender, Joust, Robotron, and Bubbles. While the reviewer appreciates the history, they aren't exactly raving about the collection, hinting that these specific titles might be best left in the past. The gameplay is called embarrassing by today's standards, though there's some fleeting fun to be had, particularly with friends. Overall, the package nets a rather low 4/10. Also showcased is a preview for Alien Resurrection on PlayStation, promising alien rampaging action and an ACID-splattered glimpse into the game, highlighted as an exclusive feature in GamesMaster complete with a free tips book. Rounding out the page is a promotion for GamesMaster Magazine, declaring itself Britain's biggest-selling multi-format games mag, covering every game on every format every month. Featured games mentioned include Metal Gear Solid 2, Jet Set Radio, Virtua Tennis, and a review of Resident Evil Code Veronica, with the issue on sale July 12th. This page dives into the chaotic world of Super Runabout, described as Climax's destructive, mission-based speeder let loose in a San Francisco-inspired city. The review is pretty blunt, stating that despite being the third game in the series, the vehicle handling is fundamentally screwed. The framerate is also described as low, contributing to a sluggish feel. Interestingly, there's a feature called Super Crazy Taxi About, which points out the uncanny similarities between Super Runabout and Sega's own Crazy Taxi, highlighting shared ideas like ramps and shortcuts. The reviewer notes that while there are some good ideas mixed in, they are ultimately lost within the overall confusion and technical shortcomings. Despite the potential, the game scores a rather disappointing 5 out of 10. The next page shakes things up with a review of Samba de Amigo, Sega's frantic rhythm action game. It features Amigo the monkey and requires players to time their maraca shakes to balls entering colored circles at high, medium and low positions, sometimes hitting poses. The reviewer admits you might feel like a complete lemon initially, but once you get into the swing of things, it becomes clear why the game's mascot is tripping out. Screenshots show the bright, colorful gameplay interface with various characters and vibrant backgrounds, including Amigo himself looking happy or sad depending on your rhythm skills. The music ranges from traditional samba to modern pop remixes, and even tunes from other Sega games. Your performance is graded from A to F, affecting the on-screen visuals, turning into a psychedelic frenzy for good play, or leaving Amigo slumped for bad. Details about the expensive maraca peripherals are also included, explaining how it all works. This page continues the Samba de Amigo import review, declaring it a bigger laugh than Naked Twister. The DC conversion is praised for offering more content than the arcade original, including more starting tracks and a challenge mode with increasing difficulty levels and unlockable music. The reviewer highlights the fantastic two-player modes, like the competitive battle with its exploding bombs and the cooperative love mode that bizarrely rates romantic compatibility based on your shaking unison. Screenshots illustrate various game modes, including minigames like Monkey Replay, Simon says, and Pose and Pose, alongside the main rhythm gameplay and the psychedelic visuals for high scores. The DC UK verdict section gives top marks for graphics, sound, gameplay, and multiplayer, culminating in an overall score of 9/10, calling it the greatest Beatmania game ever and one of the DC's best games, full stop. This page gives us the declistings, essentially the magazine's definitive guide to every Dreamcast game released and reviewed up to August 2000. It's laid out as an alphabetical rundown of titles, offering a quick description, stats on players and extras, and a score out of 10 for each. They also call out the best in class for multiplayers, sports, beat-em-ups, and action/adventure games, complete with screenshots. Soul Calibur stands tall with a perfect 10 out of 10 score, called possibly the greatest beat-em-up. Elsewhere, Crazy Taxi, Tony Hawk's, Resident Evil Code Veronica, MDK2, Power Stone, and Sonic Adventure earn a brilliant 9/10, showing the console already had some absolute corkers. However, the list isn't without its stinkers, with scores dipping as low as 3/10 for games like Vigilante 8 and Snow Surfers, reminding us it wasn't all gold. A solid reference point to see which games were making waves early on. This page jumps straight into the reader reviews section, highlighting the fact that sometimes even the experts, that's us obviously, don't get it right, inviting readers to send in their own thoughts for a chance to win prizes. We see readers weighing in on Resident Evil Code Veronica, twice, SWWS, €2,000 edition, and Crazy Taxi. One reader absolutely raves about Resident Evil Code Veronica, calling it the greatest Resident Evil game you can buy, and giving it a perfect 10 out of 10, praising its stunning graphics and atmosphere, while another also gives it top marks, noting the realistic zombies and ingenious puzzles. Good grief, they liked it even more than we did. The SWWS 2000 review, however, is less enthusiastic, calling the game a disappointment compared to Sega's usual standards, and rating it a rather dismal 3/10. Blimey, guess not everyone loved the beautiful game in this iteration. Finally, a passionate take on Crazy Taxi declares it one of the greatest games ever, praising its graphics, sound, and originality, awarding it a very strong 10 out of 10. Seems like its high score from the previous page holds up with the players too. Over on the right, we find the Deact section, focusing on Tony Hawk's skateboarding with some essential hints to help you nail those tricks and combos. Plus, there's a tease for part 2 of the Code Veronica guide, showing there's plenty more spooky survival horror to delve into. This page delivers the goods, jumping straight into part 2 of the Resident Evil Code Veronica walkthrough. This picks up right where Claire's adventure left off, guiding you through the latter stages of the game, including areas like the private residence and the Antarctic base. There's a handy nice to eat you section breaking down the various nasties you'll encounter, giving you the lowdown on everything from shambling zombies and speedy dogs, to the rather less pleasant banders, hunters, and giant spiders. The walkthrough itself provides step-by-step instructions for navigating tricky areas like the airplane, the bridge, and the complex Antarctic transport terminal, complete with accompanying maps to make sure you don't get lost. It even throws in tips for tackling boss fights like the Tyrant, suggesting the rather clever tactic of using the environment to give him a good bonk on the head. Looks like those readers from the last page who loved the game will have all the help they need to see Claire and Steve through to the end. This page continues the deep dive into Resident Evil Code Veronica with part 2 of the walkthrough. It provides detailed steps for navigating tricky areas like the warehouse, secret cave entrance, and the military training facility, highlighting where to find essential items like weapons, herbs, and keys, and how to tackle the game's various monsters, even including tips for fighting bosses like Nosferatu. The page also features a On Today's Menu section, offering profiles of the key players in this twisted drama: Claire and Chris Redfield, the ever-so-helpful Steve Burnside, the mysterious Wesker, and the rather unpleasant Alfred and Alexia Ashford, giving you a bit of background on who's who in this whole umbrella mess. There are various screenshots illustrating key moments from the game, including battles and character introductions. This page serves as part 2 of the comprehensive Resident Evil Code Veronica walkthrough, picking up the action after the initial sections. It dives deep into navigating the later stages, guiding you through the military training facility, the sewers, and the chilling Antarctic transport terminal. You'll get the lowdown on where to snag crucial items like weapons, herbs, and key puzzle pieces needed to progress. The guide provides step-by-step instructions for tackling puzzles, managing encounters with various nasties like hunters and those pesky tentacles, and even offers a strategy for putting down the grotesque albinoid boss. Detailed maps for key areas like the Antarctic Terminal B6F are included to keep you from getting lost, alongside screenshots showing some of the creatures you'll face. It's pretty thorough, telling you exactly where to go and what to do, which is rather handy when the stakes are this high. This page continues our terrifying trek through Resident Evil Code Veronica with part 2 of the walkthrough, guiding Claire and eventually Chris through the frozen horrors of the Antarctic transport terminal. It meticulously maps out your path, pointing out crucial items like the dragonfly wing and the Veronica keycard, essential for cracking those fiendish puzzles. You'll face off against mutated Steve in a frantic boss encounter where running is your only option. Trying to duke it out would be rather daft, frankly. The guide then preps you for the epic showdowns with Alexia, detailing strategies for her multiple forms, culminating in the final boss battle where aiming low is the key to survival against Alexia 2. Beyond the main quest, there's a handy section spilling the beans on unlockables, revealing how to access the riotous battle mode, and even play as other characters like Steve and Wesker once you've conquered the main game. There's even a map of the terminal to help you find your way, which is jolly useful when zombies are trying to have you for 11s. Also featured is a spot promoting Daily Radar UK, a gaming news website bringing you the latest from the world of consoles and PC. This page gives us the lowdown on Tony Hawk's skateboarding with a cracking player's guide. The intro text waxes lyrical about how brilliant the game is, despite turning the journos into drooling wrecks, and promises help on achieving pro status by covering skate, tape challenges, hotspots, hidden tapes, special moves, and cheats. There's a handy section listing the various pro skaters in the game, like Tony Hawk, Andrew Reynolds and Bob Burnquist, along with the button combinations for their signature special moves. Essential for racking up those massive points, you see. For those who fancy a bit of rule bending, there's a cheats and codes section revealing button inputs for things like unlocking everything, entering slow motion mode, or giving everyone a ruddy big head. The bulk of the page focuses on the first level, the warehouse in Woodland Hills. It provides a map dotted with numbered hotspots, specific areas or tricks highlighted for points. The guide elaborates on these, detailing gaps, grinds, and launches worth tackling. It also points out where to find the elusive hidden tape, and the locations for the skate letters scattered throughout the level. A rather useful blueprint for success indeed. This page continues the excellent player's guide for Tony Hawk skateboarding. Moving on to dissect the next few levels, we get detailed maps for Level 2, School, Miami, Level 3, Mall, New York, and Level 4, Windy City Slam, Chicago, each helpfully marked with key locations. For each level, the guide lists numerous hotspots, detailing specific gaps, grinds, and launches you can hit for points. Crucial for nailing those high scores, you know. It also pinpoints the location of the elusive hidden tape in both the school and mall levels, and shows where to find the skate letters scattered throughout the school and mall stages. There's a section offering tips for succeeding in the competitions, suggesting tactics like using special moves and incorporating fast plants for maximum air. Finally, a general tips section covers essential techniques like grinding everything in sight, chaining combos, using fast plants, mastering the bump and grind, and taking full advantage of your flashing special meter. Cracking advice all around. This page continues the excellent player's guide for Tony Hawk skateboarding, delving into the details for levels 5, 6, and 7. We start with level 5, Downtown, Minneapolis. There's a detailed map showing all the hotspots, numbering everything from gaps like the car ollie and dirty rail to launches and transfers. Crucially, it also shows you where to find the hidden tape and the locations of the letters needed for the skate challenge, providing brief tips for each. There's even a note about Officer Dick being a good spot for grabbing high scores. Next up is level 6, Downhill Jam, Phoenix. The map highlights key areas and hotspots like the huge water hazard and the ski jump. The guide points out that the halfpipe is a bit of a challenge, needing directional adjustments after each trick. It also details where to find the hidden tape and the skate letters across the level. Finally, level 7, Asphalt Annihilation, Burnside is laid out. The map shows off the park's features and marks hotspots such as the triple rail and various bridge gaps. The hidden tape in this level is described as the toughest, with a step-by-step guide on how to reach it via grinding and wall riding. The guide also notes that the bowl is perfect for vert tricks and special moves. This page moves on to the later stages of Tony Hawk skateboarding, starting with level 8, Streets, San Francisco. We've got a detailed map here showing off a staggering number of hotspots, pointing out all sorts of glorious gaps, ledges to grind, and ramps to transfer between across areas like Chinatown, the Embarcadero, and Hubba Hideout. Getting the hidden tape requires a bit of finesse, involving a leap over the fountain and a cheeky grind along a walkway. The guide also spells out exactly where to nab those elusive skate letters, scattered around the level from Hubba Hideout to a secret spot in the Spiral Tower. Following on, level 9, Concrete Conspiracy in Roswell is detailed. There's another handy map marking out the various hotspots, featuring some cracking channel gaps, hefty deck transfers, and lengthy rails to grind. The guide highlights the halfpipe as particularly good for vert antics, and gives a tip for a final, massive grind combo starting in the alien secret room. Plenty of opportunities here to really rack up that score, assuming you've honed your grind skills by now, eh? This page is the Ask Auntie Esther section, where the wise auntie dishes out advice to the Dreamcast faithful. We see Auntie Esther herself looking contemplative in a photo, ready to tackle burning questions about the console. The queries cover quite the gamut: online capabilities like watching videos and playing Quake 2i, connecting peripherals such as printers, the differences between Dreamkey versions, accessing easy modes in games like Resident Evil, spoiler, not in the PAL version, apparently we're made of sterner stuff over here, and even rumors about hidden content in games like House of the Dead. Auntie Esther also weighs in on pressing game-related matters, comparing Fighting Titans Dead or Alive 2 and Soul Calibur, recommending driving games like V-Rally 2 and the upcoming Ferrari F355 Challenge, and giving updates on UK releases for Silent Scope, Evil Dead, and Jet Grind Radio. There are also questions about the Dreamcast camera, the fabled DVD add-on prototype, and the unfortunate news regarding Senk's Neo Geo Pocket Color support. It's a lively mix of technical woes, game recommendations, and rumor control, all handled with Auntie Esther's signature charm. The page features screenshots from Rally 2, Code, Veronica, and Dead or Alive 2, illustrating some of the topics discussed. This page features the DC Interactive Challenge and High Scores section, inviting Dreamcast owners to prove their gaming prowess. The call is out for players to submit photographic proof of their highest scores across several featured titles, with the promise of winning a Mad Catz joypad for the best entries. The challenges span a variety of genres, including pulling off massive combos in Tony Hawk skateboarding, landing the biggest fish in Sega bass fishing, and scoring huge points in NBA 2K by playing full 12-minute quarters. For the ever-popular Crazy Taxi, players are challenged across Crazy Jump, Crazy Jam, and Crazy Flag, with the current top scores looking tough to beat. Virtua Striker 2 asks for proof of scoring a beautiful goal, with specific teams and goal types, while Soul Calibur players can compete in time attack for speed or survival mode for endurance, trying to surpass the reigning champion's impressive win streak. High score tables showcase the current leaders in Crazy Taxi, Soul Calibur survival mode, and Virtua Striker 2, setting the targets for aspiring challengers. If you think you've got what it takes to knock the current champs off their perch, details for submitting your scores via email, fax or post are provided. This page features the DC Interactive DM at IL section, packed with letters from readers sounding off on all sorts of Dreamcast topics. We hear from gamers across Europe, including Alex in Italy, who poetically laments the console's limited distribution and online woes, and Mikael from Finland, who wins Mail of the Month for highlighting truly dire retail conditions compared to the UK's complaints. Apparently, reindeers are more readily available than some games up there. Other readers ask about the cost of online surfing, confirm plans for future keyboard support, and express frustration over cancelled games like Armada 2. There's also debate on game naming conventions, and whether our review staff are getting a bit long in the tooth, which, I assure you, we most certainly are not. We also see a screenshot of some frantic grid-based online action, asking if it's murder or mercy, depending on your connection rates. All in all, a good cross-section of the Dreamcast faithful having their say. This page is all about getting the most out of the Dreamcast online experience. We kick off with news that Sega is teaming up to improve the internet service, aiming for potentially cheaper and more reliable connections, which sounds rather splendid. Then, there's a warning about a dodgy-sounding deal offering a way to get a massive TV picture for buttons. Apparently it involves redirecting your TV signal, but the magazine reckons it's likely a scam, warning readers not to part with credit card details for it, despite the temptation after getting free Choo Choo Rocket. We also get a look at 4x4 Evolution, which is set to support online cross-platform racing against PC and Apple Mac owners, allowing for downloadable tracks and even supporting the MP3 VM unit for extra space. Proper forward-thinking stuff there. Whoa. Around the page you'll find a quick guide to essential internet lingo in the Jargon Buster, some rather helpful tips on saving cash on your online phone bill, a peek at downloadable VMU content like animations and minigames, and a list of cool sites to check out, including the official DC UK website, and some frankly bizarre finds like Walmart purchase receipts and a kitsch gift shop. There's also a pointer towards the DC UK web directory for online shopping needs. This page presents a fantastic subscription offer. You can get the magazine for just £6, which works out to a rather tidy £1.85 per issue, a good deal cheaper than the standard £2.95. Subscribing comes with some solid perks. You save cash, get free UK delivery straight to your door, and ensure you never miss out on the latest news and reviews. Plus, sign up by direct debit and you even bag a free CD case, which is a nice little bonus. They also throw in a risk-free guarantee allowing you to cancel anytime for a full refund on unmailed issues. You can subscribe by giving them a ring, sending back the form provided, or doing it all online. There are options for direct debit, check, or card payments, with different prices depending on where you are in the world, though the direct debit offer seems to be the main draw for UK readers. This page gives us a cracking look at what's coming up in the next issue, promising an autumn games bonanza. It seems they've rounded up a load of exclusive previews and reviews for the season's big hitters. The text lists a solid lineup including Half-Life, Maken X, Plasma Sword, Gigawing, Ultimate Fighting Championship, Jet Set Radio, and the epic Le Mans 24 Hours. There's also talk of a guide for Choo Choo Rocket, and some intriguing forbidden games that apparently didn't make it over here. The visual feast on the right side shows off some more highlights. We've got the colourful character action of Power Stone 2 and the sleek high-speed Ferrari F355 Challenge Racer. Then things take a darker turn with a creepy screenshot from Alone in the Dark. On the athletic front, there's a character shot from Sydney 2000, followed by the stunning visuals of Dead or Alive 2. Finally, the stylish Ooh La La from Space Channel 5 rounds out the previews, promising a diverse mix of games to look forward to in August 2000. Looks like the next issue was shaping up rather nicely. This page is packed with various adverts for buying Dreamcast games, accessories, and imports, both online and through mail order. There's a DC web directory listing several websites for games and accessories, and a larger section from Pure Dreamcast showcasing their summer sale and new releases with prices. Another advert is for Cybernet Film Studio, offering mail order games, and game exchange deals in imports and trade-ins. Finally, JustGames.net advertises new Dreamcast games, with worldwide delivery. The next page features the DC Final Team Diary, offering a peek into the lives of the DC UK team. Esther shares her exploits, starting with a trip to Rome and the Colosseum. We see a postcard from Sorrento, Italy. The diary entries cover office antics, including playing frisbee, team members getting haircuts with questionable results, hangovers, and even someone trying out Samba de Amigo, described as a paler, less happy version of Ricky Martin. There's a quote from Andy about multiple mealing, and a list of bizarre topics discussed on Deadline, like Muppets that look like our friends. On the right is a full-page advert for Netscape Online, promising 100% net, 100% free internet access. The next page features the classic cooperative dungeon crawler, Gauntlet Legends. The artwork shows a character, presumably Valpy the Valkyrie, relaxing in the sun, which is a bit of a contrast to the usual monster-slaying action, but hey, everyone needs a holiday, right? The page highlights the game's appeal with the tagline, "Axin' and relaxin' multiplayer fun in the sun." It promises a substantial experience with 36 different levels and sub-quests to complete, and 9 hero characters including 4 arcade classics. It's the follow-up to the arcade smash hit, so you know it's going to be packed with loot and enemies. On the right is a large block of text explaining that this is a preliminary version of the magazine issue, and outlining the project's goals regarding preserving classic gaming magazines.